You're not going to find that in the public sector very often. We are a model of good government and innovation for the rest of the state. We're in the middle of our biggest technology project in the history of our court, and we need to make sure we have competent leadership to finish it up right.
Thank you very much. And we move to Don Goodhart.
Good evening. My name is Don Robarth, and I was mayor of the city of Cuyahoga Falls for 28 years. I'm married to my wife Cecilia, and we have one son, a daughter-in-law, and the pride and joy of our family is our new 2-year-old twins, David and Catherine. I think what I bring to the campaign is management experience. When I started at Firestone, I was placed in charge of a department called Order Entry. I had 14 employees, and I acquired much experience and success. My next challenge was to have a project in the international division of Firestone dealing with the rationalization of production in Europe. Prior to my arrival, Firestone was producing every tire in every European plant. That system was inefficient and costly, and particularly given the close proximity of the European plants. In 1985, I was elected mayor. Although we have over 500 employees, I think it's safe to say that there were about 14 that answered directly to me. Time does not permit me to cover all of my accomplishments over 28 years of service, but allow me to touch on just a few. In Parks and Recreation, we built a $26 million natatorium and has received numerous awards. We built a new Waterworks Family Aquatic Center. We transformed the Front 9 golf course into one of the finest 18-hole golf courses in the area, Brookledge. And we rebuilt all of the neighborhood wading pools. In services, in 2009, we confirmed that we had the lowest utility costs of any city north of Columbus. And our snow removal program was generally believed to be the finest in Northeast Ohio. In the area of development, when I became mayor, Howe Avenue was little more than a cow path. Today, there's more than $150 million of commercial retail development. And of course, had I not been proactive in the purchase of the redevelopment of the State Road Shopping Center, we would have the reincarnation of Rolling Acres Mall there. Instead, we have a beautiful and popular Portage Crossing. And finally, perhaps my biggest accomplishment was leading our city through the recent recession. Through it all, Cuyahoga Falls received 2 bond rating upgrades to AA2, and I left office, the city enjoyed an $8.2 million carryover in the general fund. I'm ready to lead again.
Now we'll move to the individual questions. Karen Pritchell.
I'm going to start.
You're going to start that end, all right? Mrs. Cobb.
Okay, Mr. Cotton, do you think the office of clerk of courts should be elected or appointed and why?
She said that it don't count this board. The question was, do I believe that the court?
Wait a minute, let me read. Can you hear me? No. You can hear me? I'll read it again. Okay, do you think the office of clerk of courts should be elected or appointed and why?
I actually had a list of next issues, since now we have our computer system installed. What's next? And one of them right here is the future of an elected clerk. I think that's a discussion that needs to happen. We have I have a clerk stakeholder committee, an advisory committee made up of attorneys, law enforcement, local elected officials, and the public to help steer us and give feedback on how we're doing. And I think one of the questions we need to put out there is whether or not this should be an elected position. I'll tell you something. I do this. I run a business. I put in an 80-hour week. I'd certainly devote what you would call full-time to the clerk's job. But I'll tell you something, be very honest with you. I think there's a good argument that it shouldn't be an elected position. This is a position that has very little accountability, very little oversight, pretty good pay for a public job, healthcare and everything. You want to come into the building and go eat a bag of Fritos down in the basement and just escape problems and refuse to make any decisions, you can do it. Nothing's going to happen to you. And you have a 6-year term. That's something I think voters ought to look at. However, if a clerk is appointed by the judges, as it is in some courts around Ohio, you are accountable to the judges and you're an employee of the court, and I think there's a different dynamic there. Now, there are also arguments to make that there ought to be separation between the court side and the clerk side, and that's a discussion that ought to happen.
right, thank you.
Mr. Robart, how can the latest technology be used to protect an individual's privacy?
You know, I don't know that it can. I mean, it's, right now, you can pick up the paper almost every day, and you can see where privacy has been taken, hacking has gone on. It's something that the technocrats, the geek people are going to have to look into and look into hard, because it seems like it's become a spiraling situation where it gets worse every day. I don't have the answer. I don't know that anybody does, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with down the road, because obviously with more and more credit cards and more things that we do online, everything we do is now electronic. It's going to become a bigger problem down the road, and quite frankly, I don't have an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Robart.
Mrs. Calvecchio, how would you make the office of clerk of courts more efficient? Please be specific.
The efficiency going forward is absolutely going to be driven by the technology. And let me stop and explain something. I think there's a perception out there amongst most people that somehow the office is currently all paper and that there's nothing but paper files floating around indiscriminately. That is not the case. The office is computerized and has been for years. There is a computerized docket. You can log onto the court's website and pull up that docket. What you cannot do is pull up the individual filings on each case. What we're talking about with the new computer system is scanning those filings so that they can be pulled up and made into an electronic format for public viewing. To go forward and make it a completely paperless system is still going to take years. Make no mistake, we have to convince every district that participates in the jurisdiction of the court, and there's 16 communities, by the way, to convert their systems to electronic tickets. E-tickets is what we call them. Not every jurisdiction can afford that, and it's costly to equip your emergency vehicles with that type of equipment. Slowly, that will be integrated, and slowly this process will occur, and eventually we will become a paperless system. But I just wanted to clear up for the folks who are listening, thinking that there's just paperwork running amok and controlling the courthouse. That is not the case.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for the general question, which we'll begin with Mr. Robart. The general question for this group is, how would you like the clerk of court's office to look at the end of your term?
First of all, and David Forhatch touched on it, first of all, I'd like to see the costs go down. As he's indicated, the cost right now for fines is exorbitant. It's not only the highest in Summit County, but it's one of the highest in the state of Ohio. I just recently found out that if you want to pay a fine, if you want to do it by credit card, which really most people are doing nowadays, if you call in, they charge 3%, which I think is high based on what the cost of that service is. But if you want to, you can pay 3% if you come in. If you call it in, you're given another number to call, an 800 number, and it's 7%. Well, on a $165 fine, which is about normal, that's another $11 or $12, which is nothing but a tax. So we've got to get those under control. The paperless system, as Diana said, is going to come. It's going to take longer than I think most people realize, and I'm not sure we'll ever be totally paperless. I think in the legal profession, there'll always be things that are going to require some documentation. And lastly, customer service. And in defense of both my predecessors here, the customer service for some reason has never been up to snuff, particularly given the cost of this court. So the customer service has got to be improved. That's something I've always done pretty well in the past.
All right, thank you. Ms. Calavecchio, how would you like the clerk of court's office to look at the end of your term?
The best measure and indicator of how successful that court will look in 6 years is visibly to look at the faces of the people who work there, who spend their lives there, and the people who do business there. And if they have a smile on their face, then I've been successful. I can't say enough to you all about how the current morale in that court is at an all-time low. Why is that? Because while your current clerk has replaced people, he's replaced them and paying them an hourly wage higher than the people who've been working there for 5, some and as many as 10 years. That creates a morale issue. And if I can get those people to at least come together and resolve those salary issues, then I believe the morale will be on the uptick. The users, the people I hear from, the attorneys who go into the clerk's office, the prosecutors who do business with the clerk's office, all report back to me that it is a nightmare situation, that they aren't getting their paperwork put through, they're not getting put through timely. Even Mr. Warhatch referred to that. We can do better. We can restore public trust in the clerk's office, but it's going to take a change in leadership.
Thank you. And Mr. Dogwood, the same question. How would you like?
Let me just say, my philosophy is I would rather have fewer employees who make a proper wage than a bloated staff with people who are terribly underpaid. I've been adjusting salaries since I got there. The 7% payment fee was instituted by Diana in haste. We're replacing that with the new system. We're using PayPal at 3%. How do I want it to look? Well, obviously paperless, and no, you don't have to have all the jurisdictions on board with that right away. Just because a case originates, whether it comes from a police vehicle or a civil case, just because it originates on paper doesn't mean it has to stay on paper. We will be scanning these documents in immediately, and we will not be pushing paper around the courthouse, so it'll be secure and easy to find. Finally, Solvent. These two created the biggest mayor's court in the history of the state of Ohio, supported it, funded it. She was the magistrate at it, draining millions of dollars from this court. That is the biggest threat to the taxpayers of this city and this court district that exists. You should all be outraged by it. They're unconstitutional. We are the only state other than Louisiana that has them. And the impact is that in every other court in the state of Ohio, they run a deficit, and the host city eats it. This court hasn't done it for years because we operate only on our customers. We need to keep it that way. Only competent, fiscally responsible leadership will do that. Judge Hoover and I are working very hard to keep us in the black.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Diane Calavecchio, Kevin Coughlin, and Don Robart. Coming up next will be the City of Stow Mayor. Unfortunately, Sarah Drew is not able to be with us tonight, but she does have a representative. Rob Klein, who is the mayor's fiance. The other candidate, Kyle J. Fleming, has chosen not to take part, but it is a contested race, so we do have one candidate, and he will simply present background. He will not take any questions. Rob, it's all yours.
Hello, my name is Rob Klein, and I'm here to represent Mayor Sarah Drew. She sends her apologies for not being able to attend. Mayor Drew was one of only 90 mayors from across the country invited to participate in the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation 2015 Mayor's Conference on Entrepreneurship. And she is there tonight, representing the City of Stow. She has asked me to share this following with you. Thank you to the CNP for hosting this candidate's night. I am sorry I'm not able to be present as I am out of town. It has been an honor to serve the City of Stow for the past 4 years as your mayor. As I reflect on the successes and the challenges to our city, I'm especially proud of our commitment to an excellent quality of life for our families, growth of our local economy, commercial and industrial space occupancy rate, investment in infrastructure, and cooperation with other public entities to realize efficiencies. And without a doubt, one of my favorite and best days as mayor was when demolition was underway at the Stow Plaza. Construction trailers and work on both Macy's and the remaining portion of the plaza is to begin as the contractor pulled permits to begin work just a few days ago. If re-elected, I will continue to be focused on providing excellent city services, improving our stormwater management, maintaining and expanding recreation opportunities for families, and keeping our safety forces positioned to ensure that Stow is safe. I welcome you to contact me at any time to talk further or if I can be of assistance. Again, my apologies for being unable to attend tonight's event. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for your support and your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. In your program, you see that the Director of Finance is next. We'll not be hearing from him, although I just saw him back there. Stand up, John. Stand up. There's John Baranek. He does not have any opposition, but he will be glad to take questions after the program this evening. Thank you for being here. Our next contested race is the Law Director for the City of Stow, so I would ask David Drew and Amber Zibrotowski to come to the dais. We'll go alphabetically first.
My
David.
first or last name.
Oh, well, we'll ask David Drew to present himself first.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very proud to be here. I think it's a wonderful event. It's a way to get out and get our message out, introduce ourselves, and let you know who we are. I was born and raised in the state of New Hampshire. After graduating high school, I went to play for the Baltimore Orioles as a semi-pro baseball player for 1 year. And because I'm slower than a turtle, I didn't last more than 1 year. So that was the end of that career. So then I joined the Air Force. I was in the United States Air Force. I then transformed into, excuse me, the New Hampshire Air National Guard. Was there for quite a while. And then I was a part-time police officer, full-time firefighter for quite some time. I then decided I wanted to go to law school. Came out here to the University of Akron, loved the area, decided to stay. At that point, I opened up my own law practice. I was the prosecutor for the City of Stow from 1996 to the year 2000. I've had 25 years of practice, of my own practice. I cover the entire state of Ohio, and I do everything. You name it, I do it. I've tried thousands of cases throughout the state on every level. Municipal court level, common police court level, the federal court level, jury trials, and I've done it in every area. I've done that in criminal cases, civil cases, juvenile, domestic. There's nothing that I haven't done. You name it, I've done it. Decided to run for law director, and basically, one of the things that I think from the law director's position is that it is elected, and it should be elected, but it needs to be non-political and impartial. And as a result of that, I am not taking any donations from anybody because I don't like to hand out, say, give me some money so I have to return any favors. I'm also not seeking or accepting any endorsements in any way. I tend for the department to be fair and impartial and down the middle. So if you ask me a question, you're going to get a straight answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amber Zibrotowski.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amber Zibrotowski, and I'm your current law director. I live here in Stow with my family. My husband is right there with my little son, being good for once, thankfully. Today is actually our wedding anniversary as well, so I'm spending it with all of you. So why am I the best candidate to continue to be your law director? I have served in the City of Stow Law Department for nearly 5 years. Since being hired in February of 2011, I've held and worked in every position within the law department. That's good. I was I was initially hired as the assistant law director and prosecutor. Within less than a year, I was promoted to deputy law director with the unanimous approval of City Council. In 2014, I was chosen over all of the other applicants for the job to fill the vacant position of law director, and again, was unanimously confirmed by City Council. I'm sitting here before you today because my work and my experience has proven time after time that I'm the most qualified person for this job. As law director, I serve as the city's chief in-house counsel. In order to perform the job effectively, the law director must have an in-depth understanding of municipal law. This includes planning and zoning law, public records law, labor employment law, Ohio ethics law, and constitutional law. As you can see, it requires a lot of knowledge and experience in many different areas and how they affect the city. Mastering these laws are not easy, and it takes a lot of experience in the field. Over the past 5 years, I'm proud of what I've achieved and accomplished. I've been able to represent the city in all courts of all levels, including local, state, federal, and even in the Ohio Supreme Court. I've been able to represent the city in agencies, including the State Employment Relations Board and the Equal Opportunity Commission.
All right, thank you.
very much.
Thank you for that. We'll move to the questions now. Janet? Oh. Now we're going to make the candidates open the envelope. It's out of my script.
What charter change, if any, would you propose for the law director's position?
Can't hear you.
What charter change, if any, would you propose for the law director's position?
I think one issue that needs to be discussed amongst the public is whether or not the law director's position should be elected. I think that's a very important discussion. I think that there are arguments on both sides, but I think it's been a while since we've engaged in those. On the one hand, I think it's great that the law director is elected. It allows us to be independent. Right now, we've heard a lot about nonpartisanship here. I am not registered, nor have I ever been registered with a political party. I come from a background where that's not what we do, and being elected allows that to happen. We don't have to worry about getting an opinion with, what the Republicans and the council might want or what the Democrats might want. On the other hand, the danger of having somebody in a law director position elected is that you could get somebody who has no experience with this type of law, and that puts the city at a great risk. You could also put the city at risk by getting somebody in here that perhaps has a conflict of interest, perhaps by virtue of either a family relationship or a marital relationship. For example, my opponent is the ex-husband for Dave. So I think that sometimes that can be an issue in making politic decisions on making the law on a fair and impartial manner. So I think it's a discussion that needs to be had. I don't know what the answer is, but I think the city has not had this discussion in a long time.
All right, thank you. All right, now the next year, just a sticker on the back.
And what ordinances should be updated or changed in the codified ordinances of Stow?
Interesting question. Just to follow up on the last comment, yes, Mayor Drew is my ex-wife, so I think everybody knows that. I don't think it's any real surprise. I do believe that some of the things we need to look at as far as updating is there's an interesting concept that has just come out. And following up on what Amber had said, we do need somebody with experience in the law director position, and they do have to be experienced, they need to be impartial, there needs to be no connections or outside sources or anybody to say, hey, you put me in the office, so therefore I owe you something. Now the reason why I bring this up is we've recently had somebody, I don't know if anybody knows about this, we had somebody arrested in the city of Stow. The reason why they were arrested is because the mayor sent out a letter to this one specific person and said, if you come into the city, you have to do A, B, C, and D, or else you're going to be arrested and charged with criminal trespass. Now, she had to have run that by the law department. Now, that is the most ridiculous thing, because what has happened is that person came into the city hall, was arrested, charged with criminal trespass. That case is now going to go forward on October 28th. And what that basically means is the mayor, on her own, for some reason, seems to think that she can change the law and pick on one particular person. You can't do that. You can't say, you can go in, but you can't. And these are the terms that you have to do with them. What that basically means is, let's say Janet D'Antonio decides that the mayor, they have a falling out. And the mayor says, I'll tell you what, you can, on 91, everybody else can go special speed limit, but you in particular, you have to go 15 miles an hour. And if you don't go 15 miles an hour, you're going to be arrested and put in jail. You can't make laws up. And as a result, the mayor and the law department had just bought the city a lawsuit, and it's about to come. And that's wrong. So.
Okay, thank you for that. And now we'll go to the general question. And the law director general question for both of you will be, any further comments? I didn't write these, I never sit on this committee, but they're wonderful questions. Let's go with Amber first.
I think that's my favorite comment.
Oh.
My favorite question here. Just to respond a little bit to the argument that Mr. Drew had made. That particular incident, first of all, I'm not at liberty to discuss at great length because I am the city's attorney and I take that role very seriously. But what had happened, in a summary of it, is there was a security risk. First and foremost, the mayor's job is to protect the employees that work there. It is not my job to judge on whether or not that is a real security risk. My job is to work with the mayor, and we worked and we crafted a letter that did not impede on the constitutional rights of this individual. He's free to come to any city council meeting, but he is not free to come and disturb the work process. It's completely constitutional. If a lawsuit does result, I'm more than confident that we will sail through just fine. And it's completely, and it was necessary for the safety of the employees working there. As far as other further comments, I want to also reiterate, I didn't get to this part of my speech, is that I really have a real passion for this job. This is something that I really devoted my whole career to. And it's something that I take seriously. I'm a member of the community. I'm not just this isn't a job that I just clock in and clock out. I work many hours, I work over the weekend. I did all weekend this weekend.
Thank you very much. David Drew, the same thing. Any further comment?
Certainly. I'm an attorney too. We don't want to shut up. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, if there was a problem with this individual, it should have been addressed at the time. So if the person was a threat, they could have arrested them for that threat. If they don't want them there at City Hall, they could have sought a protection order. They didn't do that. What they did is they sent a personal letter to this particular person saying, you will be arrested if you come into City Hall without doing A, B, C, and D. That's a violation of their constitutional rights. It's a violation of their First Amendment rights, their Fourth Amendment rights, their 14th Amendment rights. There's probably nothing that it doesn't violate in this particular case. It doesn't give them their due process right. You don't tell somebody you can't come in. What is this person supposed to do? Again, you can't single anybody. If you say, hey, everybody that comes in, they have to go by these rules, that's one thing. But you can't say everybody else has these rules, but you in particular can't do this. This is why we need experience, because an experienced law director would not have allowed something like that to go out. It's just ridiculous. I've been doing this for 25 years. Like I said, I've tried thousands of cases very successfully. I'm not sure my client, my opponent here, has ever tried a case, and she has less than 5 years' experience.